Hello, and welcome to the next episode of the Shane Walsh podcast. So today's episode, so if you are watching this, thank you. So if you haven't realized, the podcast is now available up on YouTube. If you are interested, head over to the page. The link is in the show notes. Yeah, and thank you so much for anyone who has listened to the episode via Spotify or iTunes or whatever it might be. So you may have seen or you may not have seen over the last kind of couple of weeks, PCOS has a new name. And it's important to kind of understand why they changed the name, why this matters, whether it's a good thing or it's a bad thing or whatever it might be. And it's caused a lot of conversation recently in that kind of women's health world. And it's that PCOS has a new name. And honestly, I think it's a really, really important question because for many years, many women who have PCOS have probably felt misunderstood, dismissed, or kind of ignored or reduced to symptoms that don't fully explain what they're actually feeling. And the proposed new name that they have is PMOS, which stands for Polymetabolic Ovary Syndrome. So before anyone kind of goes into panic mode or whatever it might be, this doesn't mean everything we know about PCOS is suddenly ignored. It doesn't mean doctors have solved everything. And it definitely doesn't mean that the research is finished, because for so long, the research on training and nutrition, all this kind of stuff was done on males. But we also know that males are not the same as females in relation to how bodies work, how things have changed. But what this new research is showing us is it does represent a shift in how experts are starting to think about things, how the body's working, about the condition. So what I'm going to talk to you today about is I want to break down what PMOS is, why that change actually matters, what it means for those currently diagnosed with PCOS, and why this actually could be a really, really positive step. And I also think it's also something from somebody who works with so many people with PCOS. It's something that I feel incredibly strong about. So why the biggest struggle with weight loss in PCOS often isn't this 1200 calories broken metabolism thing, but it's more often to not to do with the emotional psychological burden that comes from living with the whole thing. And the first thing I'm going to say is I don't want to be coming across as someone who's mansplaining something. I just want to be able to give you the information and then that you can apply it to yourself, or hopefully that what I'm saying makes sense so that you feel heard. That's my whole thing. So if I come across as someone that's mansplaining, I sincerely apologize. So why have they changed the name? The first thing is, let's talk about the problem with the whole Polycystic Ovarian Syndrome, which is PCOS. So many people with PCOS don't actually have cysts, and the word ovary makes it sound like it's a purely reproductive condition, when in reality PCOS affects far more than the ovaries. It can affect insulin resistance, blood sugar regulation, so how you kind of how your body absorbs foods, particularly carbohydrates. So it can affect hunger and cravings. It can affect energy. It can affect sleep, mood, inflammation, mental health, eating disorders, disordered eating patterns, relationship with food, weight regulation, cardiovascular health and risk. Okay, so it's a full body metabolic condition, and for years many women have been treated symptom by symptom instead of looking at the bigger picture. So the proposed term PMOS, which is Polymetabolic Ovary Syndrome, tries to better reflect that, and tries to reflect that by changing the word metabolic. And that's the key word, because it acknowledges that this condition is deeply connected to how the body regulates energy, hormones, appetite, insulin, and inflammation. So what does this actually mean for PCOS? So if you have PCOS and if you have a current diagnosis of PCOS, this doesn't suddenly change your diagnosis overnight. It's about improving understanding. It's honestly, I think that matters, because name shape, because the name shapes the perception of what it is. If I hear ovarian cyst condition, they often completely miss the metabolic psychological thing of PCOS. But when we start acknowledging the metabolic component, it can lead to better understanding, more comprehensive treatment, and not just lose weight, go on the pill, come back when you want kids, go on 1200 calories. That's essentially what most people are made to feel like. But actually looking at it, insulin resistance, stress, sleep, eating behaviors, mental health, movement, inflammation, long-term health markers. And I think many women with PCOS have been waiting a long time for this conversation. So I think it's really, really important. I actually think it's a really, really good thing. And one reason I think it is a positive is because it validates what many women have been trying to explain for years, that this condition impacts daily life far beyond just periods of fertility. And for another reason, it may reduce some of the shame, which is really, really important, because so many people with PCOS blame themselves. They think, why can't I lose weight? Why do I struggle so much with food? Why is my body image in the bin? Why am I exhausted all the time? Why do I feel like my weight fights me all the time? Why do my body fight against me all the time? And while biology plays a role, we need to stop pretending this is just about willpower or discipline or 1200 calories. Living with PCOS can take a huge emotional toll for someone. And the biggest weight loss barrier isn't just a slower metabolism, because this is the part I really want to hone in on. Because social media has created this idea that women with PCOS can't lose weight because their metabolism is broken. Yes, there's a metabolic difference, but your metabolism is broken because if it was, you'd be dead. But the newer research, and it's always changing, shows that the amount of calories you need for someone versus with someone with PCOS versus someone who doesn't have PCOS is very minimal when it comes to the total amount of calories. Like very minimal, like 100, 150. There could be insulin resistance, appetite regulation could be harder, cravings may be stronger, energy levels may fluctuate. But the research doesn't show that many women with PCOS simply cannot lose weight because they have a dramatically changed metabolism. What I see over and over again from having done this job for 8.5 years is that the bigger challenge isn't often psychological and emotional. There's body image struggles, there's years of failed diets, there's food guilt, there's all or nothing thinking, there's fear of weight gain, there's the scales, there's low self-esteem, there's low self-worth, there's chronic stress, there's emotional eating. And there's an element of that you feel like your body is constantly feeling your body is doing something wrong. And that changes your behaviors. That changes consistency. That changes your relationship with food and movement. And when someone has spent years feeling defeated by their body, they often approach weight loss from a place of punishment instead of care. And that matters a lot, because stress and anxiety doesn't affect mental health. They affect sleep, recovery, hunger, cravings, decision making, how you eat, how you support yourself, how you nourish yourself, your energy levels, and your ability to nourish yourself and stay consistent. So when we talk about PCOS and weight loss, we need to stop reducing the conversation to it's your metabolism, it's broken. Because for many women, the deeper issue is I just don't trust my body anymore. And that requires compassion, support, education, sustainable habits, not more shame. So there's still a lot we don't know. Now, with that all said, it's important to remember that there's still a lot of research to do, and PMOS is a proposed shift in the terminology, and science evolves and science changes, and definitions evolve and definitions change. And there's still this debate around diagnosis, causes, subtypes, treatment approaches, and how best to support women long term. But I do think this shift reflects something important, a move towards seeing PCOS as a complex whole body condition, not just a reproductive issue. So hopefully this opens conversations, better care, better support. So if you have PCOS or PMOS, depending on where this future goes or how this goes in the future, I hope this episode helps to remind you of something important. Your struggles are real. Your feelings are valid. You are not broken. And your success won't come down from punishing yourself harder, but it will come down from understanding your body better and getting the education support around that. Getting support and supporting your mental health, improving your relationship with food, reducing stress where possible, trying to build consistency, not just trying to 1200 calorie your way out of life. I'm trying to move away from the belief that your body is the enemy, because long-term health is far more than just a number on the scales. It's about understanding how your body works for you, learning how to nourish it majority of the time, and taking care of ourselves. I really, really appreciate if you found this helpful or useful. Please send this to someone that may need to hear it, to hear that weight struggles with PCOS are far more than just 1200 calories. My metabolism's broken. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed it, share the podcast via YouTube, share it up on your story, share it with a friend. And if you have any queries or questions at all, please do let me know. But I really, really appreciate you listening to the episode today, and I hopefully you have learned something.